Okay, well, hi everyone. Welcome to the podcast. Hello with Hannah is the name of this podcast. And today I could not be happier to be sitting here digitally with one of my favorite people. Her name is Bella Taylor Smith, and she's there right now. You can see her face. She's an amazing human being. Many people would know her for having this spectacular, wild, heavenly voice. One of my favorite things about Bella is probably just who she is as a person. Even beyond the wild voice, she's an incredibly kind and compassionate and thoughtful human being. And I am so excited to be talking to you today, Bella. So, hi, how are you?
Hello, I'm so good. Hannah is also one of my favorite people, so I feel equally as excited to be having this conversation today.
Love that. We can just call this episode We Are Each Other's Favorite.
Favorite, yeah.
Favorites. Okay, so for anyone who might be listening today or watching and they kind of are just getting to know you for the first time, can you just say hi and talk a little bit about like what you do and who you are and I don't know, just
Yeah.
give us a little insight into Bella.
Yeah. I mean, hi. I'm Bella. I am currently living in Sydney, Australia, with my husband, whom I love, and I get to do music full time in a few different avenues and capacities at the moment, which has kind of just really taken a big leap and bound forward in the last 2 or 3 years. And so just, you know, figuring out how to do music full time and express myself and beliefs and convictions in a way that is inviting for other people to join along with me.
So good. I mean, you and I have known each other for a little while now,
Yeah,
and I don't know how long, but it's many years.
probably like 10 years, Han, I reckon.
This is serious. We're getting
Yeah,
serious.
yeah.
But one of the probably one of the more like publicly significant things that's happened in the last few years is you went on The Voice Australia.
Yeah, I
And
did.
can you like I guess to circle back for a second, the
Mm,
idea part behind these conversations is basically just to hopefully share stories and wisdom because there are so many people out there with these creative dreams in their heart, things that they want to pursue. It could be
mm,
songwriting, it could be
yeah,
being an artist or a painter, acting. There's so many different things that people, hold these dreams and passions for.
hmm,
But so often, to actually take that leap and do it,
yeah,
it kind of eliminates majority of the bunch.
yeah.
Um, and so I guess to come back to the voice conversation, you went on this show. Why did you do it? What got you there?
Yeah.
How did you take that leap and what kind of motivated you to do it?
Yeah, I think like so funnily, all I ever wanted to do was work in like a church or ministry context. And so before like COVID happened, I was kind of on the path and to do that and kind of doing that in some capacities. And so, I think I was sitting at home, just like probably a lot of people were in COVID, and just not really knowing what to do with myself. I was teaching singing a lot at that time, and it was in that stage where you weren't allowed to breathe on other people, so you couldn't like sing in the same room. And as much as Zoom is an amazing resource, teaching singing over Zoom is not my favorite thing to do in the world. And so I was just sitting, sitting at home, and the application like came up as an advertisement on my computer, and I think, there had been times in years past where people had sort of suggested that maybe I do the show, or I had even been invited by the show to do an audition, and I just was not in any way interested or felt like a prompting towards it or had a soft heart towards it. And then, yeah, I don't know, I just, something in my head, I'm sure it was God prompting me to do it, but I felt this immense desire or drive to just do the application. Um, yeah, and in the application, I said things like, this is what I do usually, but I don't really know what I'm actually doing at the moment. And so I just kind of want to learn a bit and have some fun. And it was the strangest step forward for me, but it's ended up coming like really full circle. And now I'm kind of where I want to be.
It's so cool.
Yeah.
It's funny to me how, like, you know, because I love making music as well. I love writing songs, and I I think it's funny how, you know, we sometimes create these pictures of how we think the years ahead should unfold, or
Yeah.
quite locked down on what that process would probably be. I guess it's mostly because we see other people's journey and go,
Hmm.
okay, I look up to that person, or I love what's on that person's life. Like, so I
Yeah.
guess it will probably unfold in a similar way.
Yeah.
But I do kind of love that idea that every single human being, like before God, has this like unique calling on their lives. And
Mm.
often the outworking of that is it's its own thing.
Yeah.
Like we can dig at it and shoot for the stars in a sense, but I love that, like, you know, detail you share about your story, which is like you always thought it would go this way, but then
Oh, it did not. It did not.
it didn't.
Yeah.
What can we talk about that for a second? Like when it was not going the way that you thought it would go, what was
Yeah.
that time like? Was it disappointing? Was it hard? Was it like confusing? Like, can
Yeah.
you share a bit about like what those years were like?
Yeah. I think, it can feel deeply unsettling living a life that you don't feel like you were made to live, or being in a place where you're like like almost on the precipice, or just like waiting for what you know that you're supposed to be doing, or where you feel you're supposed to be. And that was like, quite a few chunk like quite a chunk of time, quite a few years, where I was kind of just trying my best to not like grow bitter or tired in my passion and in my heart for what I really believe and want to do, but also be like measured in my relationships and measured in my interactions and my expectation, um, and like keeping that really transparent, and like having people like you, for example, who were there to facilitate and support the possibility of what's to come, but the fact that it's just like not happening right now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
it drove me a little bit crazy, I'm not gonna lie. And I have to say, to be honest, like it really, I wouldn't trade it for the world, because it really prepared me. Like there were times where, like leading worship for me is like my favorite thing in the whole world.
Yeah.
And there were times where I wasn't able to do that. And I really thought that, like, and it sounds dramatic, but like that I wouldn't survive that, because it was just my joy. Like it's not, it just made me feel like I was standing right in the center of where God wanted me to be. And I didn't know how I would manage not being able to exercise that. But I went through that time, and I thought it was going to be the worst thing in the world, and it was all okay,
Yeah.
you know? And I'm way better for it, and learnt so many things in such an intense and short period of time, that absolutely prepared me for what I did in the following years.
So good. It's like I totally can relate and have memories of that same feeling where, you know, things aren't necessarily rolling out either at all or at the speed that
Mm,
you want it to.
mm,
And just that feeling of like, I need this to be over. I need this to be over.
yeah,
I
yeah,
want I want to be in the next thing.
yeah,
Almost this like rushing, like you want to rush to get out of this feeling because it's
yeah,
so uncomfortable.
yeah,
But sometimes I have to remind myself to ask that question, like, God, are you trying to teach me something here?
yeah, yeah,
Are you trying to show me something? What is this like? I guess my point is to get to it quicker. Like, we have to lean into God during those
yeah,
kind of times of uncertainty and when it's not going to plan,
mm,
because, like what you're saying, very, very quickly that can be over.
yeah,
And then it's over. And
yeah.
you never,
Gonna go back. Yeah,
yeah,
100%. You got to make the most of, and it's so like it's such a frustrating thing probably to say, especially if like you or someone listening is in this position where they're like in that waiting or in the frustration. Like it's easy in hindsight to say, make the most of it because it's a learning period or whatever. But it's so true, and like I'm really grateful that that was really hard, you
yeah.
know?
So again, to dig in on that, like I don't just want to talk in a way that like kind of shoots at, and then it will all be over, and you'll
Yeah,
success, and you'll win a television show.
yeah.
and then you feel better. Like, what is the goal here with like using our creativity and our gifts? Like, say 100 people listen to this episode, and they're all creatives. They're all songwriters. Reality is probably not 100 of those people will end up doing exactly what they thought they would be doing. So
Yeah.
I don't know, do you have anything to share on that? Like, what is the prize here? What are we shooting for?
Yeah, I think it comes down to what you believe is valuable and like worth the time and effort and work. And like right now I'm 80% in the pop industry and kind of like making my way into like Christian contemporary music space. And to be honest, I never, ever, ever was like, I want to do pop music. I want to be in the secular music industry. That's just not something that I envisioned for myself. And but I really had to wrap my head around how incredibly valuable I can be and the things that I can contribute just because they're not in the exact area that I want them to be doesn't mean they're any less valuable to others. And so I think like, you know, I have found ways and um, pursued opportunities that in some roundabout way can align with what my purpose is, but also can be of assistance or encouragement to others, but maybe just in a bit more of a subtle way than I would initially prefer.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's
And
cool.
that's still valuable.
Yes. That's really cool. How do you protect that thing that you value? Like, say,
Yeah.
for example, if you're sitting in a meeting or with a group of people that don't value what you value
Yeah.
or don't see it the same way, where's the line between like having resolve about things that you feel really strongly about and listening to people
Yeah.
and receiving what like their perspective might be, do you think?
Yeah. I think, I had a laugh because sometimes I'm sitting in meetings and I literally have to explain the bottom line of who I am as a person and like almost justify my beliefs and my reasoning for not compromising my convictions. And I think as far as like taking on feedback and expertise from people who have been doing things for a lot longer than me, who are far more experienced and have a greater understanding of the industry that I'm in, is there's always, a reason that they're requesting something, and whether it's they believe that it's for more exposure, for potentially shock value, for there are so many moving parts. And before I would ever dismiss or shut down things, it's important to me to always ask, the purpose is like, what is the actual purpose of this marketing campaign or this look or this outfit or this song, for my career as coming from a place that you have expertise, and then is there a way that we could execute that same intention but in a way that works for you and doesn't compromise my integrity.
Yeah, that's great.
It's scary though, like I get scared when I'm in meetings and I have to say that, it's intimidating.
Yeah, okay. So you're not just like this kind of bulletproof human who's
No.
like, oh, this is where we're going.
Yeah, I literally get off meetings and say to Josh, my husband, like, please help me, please.
Yes. Okay, I'm just kind of going with the flow here, but one thing I was just thinking about was like, I was thinking about like social media and
Yeah.
this thing that we have like in our life now that kind of wasn't really there maybe a decade, well, it was there, but it's never
Yeah.
been more in our faces than it is
Absolutely.
now. And then in terms of our creativity, I guess I'm pointing this question a certain way. Here we go. There's so many reasons to not do stuff and not jump over the line with sharing our art.
Yeah.
And sometimes I talk to people who are like, when I get a record deal, then I'm going to do this. When I, hit this point or have this many songs, then I'll release a song.
Mm.
And then I also think about social media. Like I jumped on your YouTube page, I think it was this morning, and um, first of all, everyone needs to go on YouTube and subscribe to Bella Taylor Smith. We've got to do it. And some of the videos that have resonated the most with people, it's like you and Josh sitting there
Yeah.
playing a song. Like, it's really simple.
Yeah.
And so I guess my directed question is, for those who are putting off sharing their music, what do you think about social media and how to share it, and should they share it, or what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think anyone who works in a creative industry probably has a bit of a complex relationship with social media, and the expectations that come with that personally and corporately. And so I guess I've really had to um, make a decision about social media is a sharing platform for the people that I love and my friends and my family. And at the same time, it's a professional tool to help promote and engage an audience and bring people along with me. And so, yeah, like I have had times where I've posted things that were really stripped and not high production value, and then other times where it's like a full-on music video. But I feel like 9 times out of 10, people prefer interpersonal content because we're constantly oversaturated with production value in every area. And if someone can see someone sitting in their lounge room and singing a song that they love or resonate with or are encouraged by, oftentimes that's what I prefer. And I think that that's what a lot of people are preferring now rather than high production value. So it doesn't have to be flashy, for it to impact or resonate. And also you like see those crazy times when people post like the silliest, funniest videos on TikTok and it is the catalyst for their career. So I just think you never know as well. You never know.
Yeah. And I think coming back to like that previous conversation about what do you value?
Yeah.
It's like, okay, if you're a writer or an artist and you say, I want to do this because, let's say, for example, I want young people to hear a positive message in pop music. Well, then that is possible through those avenues.
Yeah.
To just make it about those things.
Yeah. And there are there are artists that I see, like there's an artist that I'm obsessed with, her name's Trella. And I'm just like seeing her at the moment, and she's on the craziest social media grind I've ever seen. Like I am so in awe of the grind that she's on at the moment, right? I like every time I open my TikTok, I see her posting and promoting like one of her songs. And they're like the most low key, chill, examples of her singing this song like in her room or lying on the floor or whatever. But I know that with that consistency, like comes exposure. And I think as I glean from that and want to be more like that because I know that the more content that we put out, and obviously you want to be aware of the quality that you're putting out because it's your work that you're proud of. But like the more that we put out there, the more is available. And so it's like if you're sitting on a pile of beautiful songs or of content or of art or, of screenwriting, or you have this wealth of material and your hesitancy is around whether people are going to like it or whether it's the right time, like just share. And you never know what will get picked up or who will hear it or when it will.
It's so good. I feel like it is a scary thing, but it is encouraging for people because I was actually with a friend of mine in Nashville a few months ago. We were writing, and he said, and I guess this quote could get taken a bunch of different ways, but he said, music out is better than music in. Music out is better than music in.
Love.
And I was like, yeah, I really like that. Like that idea that for me personally as a songwriter, if I have like a ton of songs that are just sitting with me or things I have to finish, like a long list, you can start to feel quite stressed and
Yeah, it's overwhelming. Absolutely.
yeah, and it's like, cool, maybe some of these just need to be shared, or maybe they need to be put to the side and later.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
maybe I need to get on the phone and call some friends and say, hey, do you want to finish this? Or do you want to,
Yeah,
like,
yeah. And
oh,
maybe it's for someone else. I think that's one thing too. Like, at the moment I have like this project and that project and all of these songs that I'm sitting on. And I'm like, maybe they're actually not mine. Maybe they're for someone else. Maybe someone else is to finish them. Maybe another artist will love them and they'll be the right space for them to release, you know?
absolutely. That's a nice, like, it's a nice way to think about. I remember someone talking about songs like, it's so important to be open-handed. Like, you write them and you work,
Mm.
make it happen, and then you kind of open up your hands and go, like,
Who's it for? Where does it go? Yeah.
and even to the point, like, is it just to be laid down? And that's
Yeah,
okay.
and that's not a waste. That's not a waste. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is hard, though. That's hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, it's a nice way to think about our creativity in the sense of, again, coming back to what do we value here?
Yeah.
What do you think about just having fun? How important is it to have fun while you're creating?
So much. At the moment I'm in like peak release time and tour time and all those times. And it's hard for me, I'm not gonna lie, right now, to be like, this is so fun. Like
Yes.
I'm having so much fun. But I know that all the preparation that I'm doing now is so that like when I go out on tour at the end of this year, I'm gonna have so much fun because I will have thought of all of the stuff that needs to be thought of prior.
Yes.
But I think, no matter what you do for your career, it can be so easy for it to be all consuming and become like who you are, not just what you do.
Mm.
And so making sure that like I prioritize going to the arcade with Josh and like being silly
Yes.
and not a distraction in like a distracting way, but removing myself from my work, even though I'm so closely attached to it because it's my art. And I
Yeah.
think that that's like the creative mind is so engaged with who they are and what they do, and that becomes intertwined very easily and can be quite exhausting if you're not budgeting fun.
Yes. I love that. Budget fun, everybody.
Yeah.
I also love that you just said go to the arcade with Josh.
Yeah, it's
What?
our favorite. I'm like, it's also, I'm deeply competitive, but only in games.
Yep.
And so is Josh. And it's like the one time I feel like like healthy competition can be a really, really good like stress release
Yes.
because you get very invested in something other than the songs that you've been sitting on for the last X amount of time or the painting that you've been sitting at for
Yep.
days and days and days and days, you know?
Yep.
It like switches something in your brain. So the arcade for me,
I love that. Also, how good is being competitive? I have that side
so
too.
good.
My husband
So
has it.
good.
Some games of Monopoly have nearly ended us.
Yeah,
Nearly ended us,
that's
but
a real, yeah,
it's okay.
yeah. And I think as well, when you apply competition in fun settings, it can almost like exercise that muscle so you don't get caught in comparison. Like
Yes.
if you're a naturally competitive person, it can be really easy to apply that to every area, including like your work. And a lot of the time, like that's actually not feasible
Yeah.
in a creative space because like there's no competition between me being me and you being you. Like,
Yes, absolutely. That's a really fine line too, isn't it? It's just like
yeah.
that because I know you well, and I'm similar to this in that we're driven, so we're
Yeah,
happy to
absolutely.
make stuff happen. But that's probably a similar muscle that's like the competitive muscle too.
Yeah.
Like, and so
So you just gotta
just
you
finding
just
that
gotta check
balance
it.
between like, okay, we need to push and make
Yeah.
it happen and drive and but at the same time, it's cool. Like,
It's cool. It's
yeah.
okay. And I think, everything works out exactly the way that it's supposed to in the end. And I like that, I'm so grateful for my faith in God for those things because I can't imagine how much more stressful, overwhelming, and like almost soul crushing it can be when you don't have that greater purpose or that greater value or that greater understanding of what is valuable to you and why.
Yeah.
Um, that that's hardcore.
Oh yeah. Okay, well, to kind of like round things up a little bit, um, I mean, you have so much amazing music that exists that people can go and listen to. But there is a newer song that's recently come out called Small Things, and
Yes.
I love it.
Thank you.
The first time I
Me
heard
too.
it, I heard you play it live.
Yeah.
I was like, I love this song. And so to
You
hear
came straight up to me and told me too. I was like, thank you.
the song.
Yeah.
But yeah, so there's a lot of other stuff out there too. People can check out your YouTube page and all of your
Yeah.
artist profiles across all the streaming services. On the side, I just want to throw it out there and say, as always, feels weird to say this like on this podcast, but I'm just gonna say it, whatever. I just feel like it's begun, but it hasn't even begun for you yet. And I know that so many people will probably get to know you in the decade, 2 decades ahead, and be like, and we maybe one day we'll look back on this like little interview and be like, you didn't even know then.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I just feel like I wanted to say that, and I feel like, could you talk for a second about like your passion for worship music and Christian music, and what's in your heart for the future with that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I think I'm just so, and this has been a lesson that I'm grateful I've learned being in the pop industry. I just believe that the words that we sing change things. And like I was 15 when I got saved, and it wasn't like in an altar call or during a message, it was during worship. We were singing I'm gonna sing until my voice won't let me. And I was like, I raised my hand in worship. This is like after going to church for a year. I raised my hand and I sung it, and I was like, this is my moment. Like this is me believing, declaring with my heart that Jesus is Lord, and it like completely changed my life. And so I believe that, you know, from that moment and in that space, God just kind of ignited something in me that I can't seem to shake and get rid of. And seeing people find healing and wholeness and salvation in worship is just what I want to be a part of. Like I am so grateful that I can partner with God and, be obedient to Him in those spaces. And it's just my heart. Like I just can't shake it. Can't get rid of it. I love it.
Anytime I get a chance to be in the room when you're leading worship, that is so felt. Like I think it's really clear you have this like understanding of the power of worship and what
Mm,
can happen and what's possible for people. And
yeah.
so I've never seen you hold back in those settings before. And it's
Do you know,
probably,
I have a giggle because I just I couldn't if
yeah,
I tried. Like
yeah.
it really just feels like, um, yeah, like I was kind of saying before, I'm standing right in the center of what God is asking me to do. And like that communion with Him and being able to share that with a room or a group of people or someone listening to a song, I just feel like it's the most valuable
Mm,
thing. Yeah. And
yeah.
and and would never want to waste one single second of that being complacent or unsure.
And I just want to say a massive thank you, Bella, for being willing to be on the podcast today. And for everyone else listening in, God bless you. Sending
Yeah.
you lots of love. And hopefully we'll see you soon. So
See you
thanks, Bella.
guys. Thank you, Han. See ya.
Bye.